All right, Reg, man, how's it going?
Man, glad to be seen and not viewed.
I agree with that, man. Like I was telling you, I've been seeing your progress and every interview, you know what I'm saying? You've already went over your COVID story, so I don't think we need to go over it again. But, you know what I'm saying? I just want to say, man, I'm glad you're doing good, man, and doing better.
Appreciate you saying that, brother.
Yeah, man. Like I said, I've been watching every interview. You know what I'm saying? I've been seeing your strength get a little bit more, man.
Yeah, that's the bad thing, getting back fat.
Oh no, that's definitely the bad thing.
Yeah,
But I'm sure as soon as you get better, you'll get that taken care of, man.
yeah,
It'll be a lot more easier when you're moving and everything.
exactly.
But man, I thought we'd start about death row and who started death row.
Who's the creator of Death Row?
Yeah, who started it? Who made it?
Well, okay. There's two stories. You got one story where it was Suge, Dre, Doc, and this guy named Dick Griffey. Then you got another story where it's Suge, Michael Herrio, and Dre. And then you got the story that I believe or subscribe to, Suge and Dre.
So you don't think Harrio had anything to do with it?
I think Herrio solicited money from friends that he was doing business with prior to going into prison and had them invest into the company.
So he did have some involvement in it, with the money part though.
As far as getting people to help fund some projects that was on Death Row, correct?
Now, was there another person? Because I believe in Keefe book, he talks about another person.
Yeah. Everybody keep wanting to make me say that name. And that man trying to stay low key and out of the business, but I'll just call him PJ.
Okay.
And then let everybody go from there. But that's the one guy of a couple that I believe that Herrio convinced him to invest some money into the company.
Okay, now that they've invested into the company, how tied in are they with Death Row?
Well, I don't know what their business arrangements were, but apparently you don't put up no money and don't have any business arrangements in it. But where Herrio messed up at, in my opinion, is he settled with Interscope Records and Death Row in 1995, where he got $300,000. And he gave up his rights. That's why Interscope never got sued. Or that's why the lawsuit with Interscope was dropped. Where even if Death Row would have went, and all Suge had to do, not to file bankruptcy, was go to the court and say, the paperwork of the agreement that Interscope is filing, I make the same claim. And that judgment would have never been assigned to Death Row for $100 million because Interscope paid off Michael Herrio in 1995, 1996.
Why was he paid off at that point?
To make lawsuits go away.
So Harrio was suing at that time too?
Correct. He sued then in 1995, 1996.
Was he not getting compensated properly? What was making him sue? Do you know?
Yeah. He felt that he was shortchanged or he wasn't compensated as he would have liked to be. And Suge's position was always, it's not your money, bro. You just made an introduction. And that's what the position that David Kenner, who was Herrio Boy, who was his criminal attorney, and that was the position that they took in 95, 96. Not saying that David was right or wrong, but that's the position that they took.
So there's always this situation that we hear about between the Bounty Hunter Bloods and Suge Knight, and that Herrio had something to do with it. Is there any truth to any of that?
There was a meeting in the bathroom at a video shoot for OFTB, Operation from the Bottom, a group that was on Death Row. But Suge had about 6 or 7 of his homeboys out there. So all of that, the time about they pushed up on him, was hitting him and all of that, that's not true. But if y'all want to believe that, go ahead. But ask BJ the next time you're telling that story, ask him where Bunny Hunter Red is.
Was there a situation with David Kenner where David Kenner was being kidnapped? What was going on with that?
Yeah, there was an incident where they came up to the office and they was escorting him out. I guess they had got to Kenner. Because David Kenner was Harry O'Boy at one time. When I mean boy, I mean he was working for him. He was his attorney. And so they knew who David was. And I'm sure Harry O wanted to talk to him, was upset because he became more loyal to Suge than he did to Harry O. And they were walking him off the elevator. And we was just so happened getting on the elevator. And they kept walking and left David Kenner on the elevator. And David Kenner just said, y'all just saved my life. Y'all just saved my life. I don't know what they were about to do to me. Yeah. So that incident happened. I remember going up to meet Harry O at prison. And I used to have to ride up there with David Kenner because he was always scared that maybe somebody will be following him away from the prison or while he's pulling up to the prison or something. So he had fear of Harry O. But I don't know what their business were or the dealing.
So things got tense between Harry O and Suge and Death Row at one point.
Yeah, I mean, you know, he did the Welcome to Death Row videotape, but prior to that, he sued. He was sitting down there at the grand jury testifying against Suge, trying to get, you know, a RICO case done against Suge. And so Harry O was upset. He felt he was beat out of money. So the scenario goes, and I always ask this question because I don't have any bone either way about it. If I set you up, you, Capone, with Arthur Dallo, and say, hey, Capone got this going on and he's doing this. Art, you doing good money now? You know, you need to invest into Art's company. And you do, and Art does. Am I the investor? Is Art the investor? How the deal goes. How that deal went, only those 3 men know what the arrangements were. But that's how the deal went. Well, I ain't put up nothing. I just made an introduction. Me being Harry O, you being Suge, Art being the other guy, PJ. Who's the investor?
So Harry O, you don't believe invested any actual money then?
David Kenner always told Suge that he didn't get any money, that Harry O was tapped out from his, you know, the seizures by the government and from the all the attorney fees. If you know anything about a trial, criminal trial, they're going to drain you. It will drain you.
So at one point, he ends up suing again.
Correct.
Suge, I think around 2004, 2005, something like that.
Yeah.
And what happened with all that?
So Harry O refiled the lawsuit, got some different attorneys to handle it for him, and he brought in Interscope and Death Row. But this time, Interscope brought the paperwork to the judge and showed him, hey, we already dealt with this and settled it. But Interscope on their own pretty much now. They're not looking out for Death Row like they were then. And all Suge had to do was bring in the paperwork and say, that lawsuit that Interscope settled, we also sustain, or whatever the correct word is, to say we feel that the case was settled as well. But Suge playing attorney himself then. Got rid of everybody, don't have no attorneys. Using this crackpot named Sherry, some crazy attorney, and Lamont Givens. Didn't know what the hell they were doing, because they were letting Suge practice law.
Wow.
Yeah. Got himself a $107 million judgment just by not saying that this case has already been settled, which ultimately caused him not to file bankruptcy.
So he had to personally file bankruptcy after that.
Personally and Death Row, the company, because they was coming after all his assets.
Sheesh. Okay. Okay, so there's been this long rumor and story about Dr. Dre at one point being shot during his death row days. It was kind of crazy because the story never really came out at the time, you know, compared to like now. If someone gets shot, it's really hard to hide.
Yeah.
But back then it's like this, you know, this kind of like crazy story or thing that happened that nobody really knows anything about. Is there anything you can tell me about it?
I only heard the rumors as well. Just that Dre was at the studio, and apparently he didn't want to work or being lazy or maybe drunk or whatever. And Suge was supposed to have shot him in the leg or in his butt. But I don't have any firsthand knowledge of that. And I just heard the rumors just that other people have heard the rumors out here. Quite frankly, I don't believe it. Because of the way I knew how their relationship was up until Dre finally decided to leave Death Row. Suge was always Dre protector. Now caught cases behind Dre. Then, you know, was always captive saberhold of Dr. Dre. So that's all I ever saw between Dre and Suge was all love.
This is a well talked about rumor within like the death row circle. Like a lot of people talk about this. Like it's something that's out there. I mean, I've heard a few different times myself. You would think that after something like that happened, Dre would leave death row.
This was definitely at least 2 years before me coming around, and I was around from 94, 95, 96 while Dre was there. And I can honestly say I didn't see nothing but a cool relationship, a respectful relationship between the two of them.
Oh, so this was supposed to have happened. Okay.
93, 92 or something like that.
Okay. And Dre left over Suge and Michelle hooking up.
Well, I think that, I always say that was the final straw. There was a lot of things. Dre and DJ Quick were two that I can honestly say never liked the drama that was going around Death Row. These were artists, musicians. They was about to work. So they really didn't like the dumb shit that was going on. Look at him now, he's a billionaire. So guess he was smart, but he wasn't for all of that. And that was the reason for leaving, but do you leave a company that's worth $300 to $500 million, you know, just because of that? But when you have a bunch of things happening, and then you find out that your partner is messing around with your baby mama, I just think it's just, you can only take so much as a man. And that's what I think happened.
So that was like the final, like, I gotta go now. Like, this
The
is.
straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, okay. It would seem like a chaotic environment to always be in and people fighting. And, you know, you wouldn't want to deal with that while you're trying to focus on making music. You're trying to have a clear head and everything.
I agree. And you got to remember our age. Think of your 27, 28-year-old nephew now. How do we really look at them? We look at them as young and dumb and full of calm. You know, we just, you know, true enough, 27, 28-year-old, like Jay-Z said, the new 40 is the 30-year-old.
40 is the new 30.
You know, they're younger.
So Dre leaves, and do they leave on bad terms? Because Dre left everything to Suge. What was going on that made it so bad?
Well, number one, Suge did, even though he gained 50% of a $100 to $300 million company at the time, he still didn't want Dre gone, because Dre was a hell of a producer. And he, you know, he also directed most of the videos and stuff. So Dre did a lot of work for Death Row. I mean, Suge was business, he was the creator. And so he didn't want that, but that revolutionary Tupac Shakur brought out something that was undeniable to us. When he was like, wait a minute, this nigga never come around to the studio, not knowing that Dre was really on house arrest at the time. And he was like, Snoop's on trial for murder. Where was he? Why isn't Dre there to support Snoop during this time of need? Where's Dre? The attorney telling us, hey, one of the witnesses keep calling Snoop Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre. We need Dr. Dre to come to court to sit there and say, I'm Andre Young, I'm Dr. Dre. Dre didn't want no part of that. You know, it was minute, but it just was something to play before the jury. A tactic. You have all of these things, and so it would have been hard pressed for Suge to go against Pac and some of the other artists for what Pac was preaching. But Tupac was the one really preaching, hey, this dude's not loyal, this dude's not with us, this dude is against us. What type of dude is he? If he's not coming to support his homeboy in court, if he's not, never at the studio doing no work. I came over here to work with mainly Dr. Dre. Quick is the one that mixed down All Eyes on Me.
Yeah.
Not Dre.
Okay, and at one point, Snoop wants to leave Death Row.
Yeah.
What was going on at that time?
Well, everybody wanted to leave Death Row then, except Das and Michelet. We were working their albums, and Das was doing a lot of the production on the Gridlock soundtrack and the gang-related soundtrack, and his own album, Revenge, Retaliation, Get Back. And so Das was happy. Corrupt had got sent home because he was a molester. And then, what's the other boy name? You know, so Snoop was not happy because he felt he should have been running the company. He should have been left in charge. And so Leroy Korn was coming up there trying to get Snoop. Everybody was trying to get Snoop. Suge had made a deal initially with Interscope and Priority Records where they were going to do 50-50 deal with them. They were going to own Snoop 50-50. That deal fell through. And so, but Suge always had a special place in his heart for this guy named Brian Turner, who was the owner of Priority Records. And I remember him sitting up there, and Brian came up there to tell him that Jimmy backed out of the deal because I think they were going to give him like $12 million or $14 million, something like that. Something, it was a crazy amount. That's what he had even told Leroy Korn when he came up. And Leroy came back and said, because Columbia Records was their partners at the time, said the most we can come up with was like $7 or $8 million. And Suge, for some reason, did not want Snoop on the East Coast. He didn't want them over there at Def Jam. And so I remember he took less money. He told Brian, he said, Brian, you know that country motherfucker you got over there? He's talking about Master P. Once you put him with him, bill him $4.5 million, give me $4.5 million and a 7% override. You do that, you got yourself a deal. And that's how the deal went. That was Suge creation and thinking only for him to be over there with No Limit and Master P. Now, Master P had to agree to the deal and want to take Snoop, but the way P tried to put it out, like he went and took Snoop from Suge and they came up with the ideal and all that, horse shit.
How much did he say he paid for Snoop?
Who?
Master P.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know what amount he said.
Or Snoop's contract, I should say.
I don't know. The contract was actually directed or signed to Priority, and then Priority did whatever they wanted to know with No Limit.
Okay.
I remember getting a check from him because I told Brian, but before we do this deal, Snoop was on a song that appeared on one of their albums or without our permission. And we about to do a cease and desist on that album. And Brian was like, no, what you want? And Suge told him $100,000. Just threw out a crazy number, because that was a lot of money back then. A motherfucker sent a check for $100,000 from the general account the next day.
Damn. Did Snoop get to keep his name? Because I remember his name wasn't it Snoop Doggy Dogg at first?
That was his doing. We didn't take the rights for the name or anything from him.
Okay. Snoop has said he never got no real money till he got to No Limit.
He got his life saved before he did an album. Nigga was on trial for murder. Do you know what attorneys cost for murder? His family sued us or sued him. He got that case taken care of. He was living in a house in Toluca Lake, Montclair, and had a spot on Wilshire. He had limo drivers wherever he went. He had homeboys on his staff. He had unlimited studio time. He lived like a rock star, looked good, and he had a monthly of about $50,000 a month. Plus whenever he touched, big amounts. Come on. Everybody lived good on death row. Everybody was happy until they didn't get what they were getting anymore. Snoop's separation agreement from us was $1 million, where he couldn't make any more claims against us, and we didn't make any more claims against him when we released him to priority. I personally took the check over to his accounting firm because they still owed me some money for the security, so I was making sure I got my check that day.
Oh, okay, so when you guys split, there was agreement that Snoop wasn't owed any more money.
Correct.
Okay, was Snoop in the hole?
We don't know.
When you guys split?
That's what I always say Death Row messed up at. Death Row was always like a guest. We didn't have an accounting department or a royalty department. Suge just took care of the artists in his mind as best he could and gave them money. I always say they all were overcompensated because everybody that you hear complaining about they got cheated for this or they got cheated for that, if you ever look at the history, they never even put an album out on Death Row. Only ones really put an album out on Death Row, an album that was successful, was Tupac Shakur, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, and the Dog Pound. Tell me anybody else. Reggie didn't do, if she sold 100,000 records, I'll be surprised. Michelle, she sold 25,000 records, I'll be surprised. Daz, if he sold 100,000, I'll be surprised. So my point is to all of that is, everybody was overpaid. They were all living good. You saw any Death Row artists out back in the day, they lived in a nice spot, had a nice car, no matter if it was owned by Death Row or not, because everybody was doing leases back there. So you wasn't outright buying a car unless it was a classic. And the reason why most of the cars was in Death Row name was because who could qualify for those type of cars then? Could they qualify for those type of cars on those type of budgets? Only getting $2,000 or $3,000 a month monthlies? But no, Death Row was paying for those car notes and the insurance, them where they were living, and gave them a monthly. And like I said, most of these guys, they never put out an album on Death Row. That's when you get paid, when your album drop and you go and do shows.
Yeah.
That's how you make money. But most people don't know the business, so that's why they always saying Death Row cheated, Death Row did that. Tupac. Why would Tupac mama sell her with us for $3 million if we owed him so much money? That was her settlement agreement. $3 million, and she did 4 or 5 albums with us after that. So they were happy. They were content. Tupac wouldn't even do his money yet when he got shot and later died. His money was just about due. So that's what bothers me when people always say they were being cheated, they were this or that. That's not accurate when you know the business.
It seemed like if she was really that unhappy, she would have never put no albums out.
She would have never did business, continue to do business with us, 1. And 2, and more importantly, $3 million ain't enough for me to sell it with. If y'all owe me $50 million or $25 million or $10 million, I'm only gonna take $3 million and you have it? I'll take $3 million, that's all you got. Well, we still had it at Interscope. No, $3 million is what the attorneys was like, yeah, this is about right. After everything that they done showed us, they done spent and paid for, $3 million sound about right. It could have been wrong in our favor, could have been wrong in their favor. but everybody do it in approximate.
Oh, okay. So that was just the best
Best,
approximate that everybody could agree on and everything.
correct.
Gotcha.
And she was a smart lady. She wasn't nobody that needed to have no whole bunch of bills or anything like that. When she had to make the deal, she had just put out an album with Jive Records in her scope. The Are You Still Down album.
Okay.
So she wasn't in no desperate spot.
I always hear about this story about on the boat, on Doggy Style CD release party. Something happened on this boat, a fight or something big happened, and that caused Death Row to get more security and everything. Do you know what happened on that boat?
Well, they had the Nation of Islam security at that time. The Muslims was mainly the security there. But the Dog Pound, the Long Beach guys, and the Bloods, they were new into that getting relationships. This was like 94. And they got on a boat in the Marina del Rey. They were all drinking and got into a fight where the sheriff's department came and had to clear them off the boat. So that was it.
That was
Pretty
it,
much
nothing big?
They got it worked out eventually.
Oh, okay. Sometime after Snoop leaves, you hear about this conversation about Master P and Suge, and I guess Suge called Master P and tells him, LA's not big enough for the both of us, and Master P supposedly responds with, well, so when you leaving? Have you heard anything about that?
Not while I was around. Definitely didn't happen up until 2002. So if that happened, it would happen after 2002. But I can't confirm or deny that after 2002. Prior to 2002, hell no.
Okay. Did Snoop ever diss Biggie?
There's rumors that that type of music is in the vault somewhere. I would have heard it. I would have put it out. I wouldn't have had Top Dog do that Going Back to Cali song that diss pretty much Biggie and them. And so if it was there, it would have came out definitely on the album that I put together called Dead Man Walking with Snoop. That was just a bunch of studio garbage that I put out and did with E1. And that definitely would have been on there if that was true. So I don't believe it.
Oh, okay. So you never heard it. You never heard nothing.
And it would have been out. Most of our stuff got leaked. Somebody was leaking our stuff from the archives. And that definitely would have made it to the swap meets.
Here's something that you might know a little bit about. I'm not sure though, but the night that Tupac was killed, when Keefe tells his story, he talks about Big Meech being in the car, but not in the car when they actually did the shooting, but right before that. Do you know anything about that?
No. Only thing I disagree with is they try to make it seem like they were sitting in the parking lot of Club 662. If you know anything about Club 662 and that, they would have been stuck in that parking lot for 2 or 3 hours to get in or to get out because it was that small and that packed of a club. Whether they were in the area or not, I can't say or deny. I can't see Keefe lying on Big Meech if he wasn't with them in the van or in the entourage. So if Keefe says it, I believe that.
Oh, okay.
Even though I don't believe a lot of stuff he says, but when it comes to little stuff like that, I believe. I believe he's trolling a lot now and trying to be a comedian. And so he says a lot of things now because he done learn how to work this YouTube and the internet stuff. But on stuff like that, I kind of take him at his word on it.
Corrupting Tupac had a situation in Belize. Do you know anything about that?
I thought it was Cabo.
Okay.
I don't think it was Belize. I don't remember. I know Snoop went to Belize. I don't remember Corrupt being in Belize. I think it was Cabo. But it was minor. It was a little word back and forth. But I wasn't present to it. But I heard about it. But as I remember, it was Cabo, not Belize.
Okay. Were you guys ever talking about Snoop Dogg coming back to Death Row?
We did, actually. He didn't have good album sales the first album or two. I always say Exhibit saved Snoop Dogg's career with that Bitch Please. Oh. When that song came out, that took Snoop to another level. That, and then when Trey D and them did the East Siders. And so during that period, or between that time, C-Style was coming up there, Big C-Style and Das were doing work back with us. And that's when Suge gave me word to tell Snoop that if he wanted to come back home, to send him $1 million, he'll give him $1 million to come back and he'll get the deal worked out. I think that was before he went to TNT or signed the deal with TNT. I honestly don't think Big C-Style ever passed that message to Snoop. But right after that is when I think Lay Low came out or something, when he said, the only reason you ain't got because I ain't sending a word or something like that. And then that's when we knew Snoop wasn't, he was still on that tripping shit.
Right, because right after that he released, what was it, Bitch Slap? I believe it was a diss song as Suge, mainly as Suge.
He did a lot of those, and those were done before that made it on the internet. That was just on the internet.
Yeah.
We had heard those before. That's why he got slapped at the Universal Amp, was because he was still doing those little underground stuff. But we're talking about the stuff that came out on actual CDs.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But he had all type of little. Snoop's a comedian. He's a funny guy. Matter of fact, happy birthday to the nigga. His birthday is the day that we're doing this filming, this tape.
Snoop's?
Snoop, October the 19th.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Him and my girl, Kim Kardashian.
Got the same birthday?
Yeah, October the 19th.
Do you know what happened with Juvenile and Young Buck? When Juvenile was supposed to sign with Death Row?
So what happened on that situation is just what we all know and saw at the award show, where one of the Suge guys rushed him, and then Young Buck got a lucky stab in, or got a knife and stabbed one of the guys that was assaulting them at the award show when they were honoring Dre at the Vibe award show.
Well, Juvenile, he did an interview with Vlad, and he was talking about how, it was Young Buck was talking about that they were all going to sign with Death Row, and Juvenile was like the main person, because they were kind of like.
He did a song on the Juvenile was hanging around Death Row. I wasn't at the time, but Juvenile was hanging around Death Row. He actually did a song on the soundtrack for Eddie. What's the little comedian name? Eddie Griffin.
Oh, Eddie Griffin.
On the Eddie Griffin soundtrack.
Okay.
But I wasn't with Suge at that time.
What happened when Suge went to Dre's house to get the masters?
I only got this secondhand. I wasn't there. But it take an engineer named Wright to tell that story. He said, what happened was Suge went there, and he told him he was Jimmy Iovine at the gate. Let them in. So they let them all in. They came to the house. Dre come to the door thinking it was Jimmy, but Suge and his boys. He said once they found out it was Suge in there, they were hiding under the bed, hiding in closets and everything, all scared. And so, yeah, but that's what happened.
What all did they get when they went into Dre's house?
Just the master reels that Dre had did. Probably stuff on Samson E. That's all he was working on. Some of Dre stuff. Just reels, stuff, because Dre had a studio at his house. And that's what Dre was mainly working out. And most people don't know Dre was on house arrest at the time from the Dean Barnes incident. And so, or it could have been the DUI, one of the two. But that's mainly why he wasn't at the studio that much. And he didn't like Can-Am, he didn't like the atmosphere. And he had just built that state-of-art studio at his house. But everybody couldn't go there.
Okay, so only select people get to go to his house.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, so Suge ended up with all the masters and Dre's half of the company, and everybody's still mad at Dre. Is there any truth to Tupac trying to find out where Dre lived or anything like that?
Yeah, he used to always ask you, tell me where you live, tell me where you live. I hear you out here. You know, because at the time he was living in Northridge. And his mom lived in Calabasas For those who would say, oh no, he lived in Calabasas. No, that's where his mom was staying. He was standing out in Northridge. Had a nice house out there. And but Suge would never tell Pac where he lived at and where he was staying because he didn't want no problems with Dre like that. And so he was caught in a bad situation. You know, caught between a horse, whatever, however that term goes. You know, where he cared a lot about Pac, but he also still cared about Dre. And the man left 50% of a company with no argument. You know, Interscope, I'm sure Jimmy Iovine, you know, decided to take care of him and looked out for him, but Dre didn't have to do that. He could have left a better way or sold his 50% to Interscope or somebody.
That too. I mean, that's $150 million.
Yeah.
He just walked away from.
Yeah. But hey, he had a rough time with the firm, and who been there, who done that, and all of that, those videos. But the white boy came and saved his life.
Eminem definitely did.
He saved him, put him back on top. There's a lot of people mad. You know, Truthhurst did okay for him, but he didn't do what Em did. You know, there's a lot of people who he hurt. You know, that along the way that he was trying. He tried with the boy that was with Eric B. Rakim. He tried with Rakim. Yep. He tried with King T. Yep. King Tila, he tried. So he was trying. But
the firm flopped. Yep. So he wasn't having too good of luck. He was kind of trying to stay out of like the gangster rap lane, and it just wasn't working for him, I don't think.
I remember one time Jimmy came up there because Jimmy was always coming up there visiting. And I used to have conversations with Jimmy at least once or twice a night every week. And Dre at one time was $21 million unrecouped, where they made him move out of that big house in Northridge to a smaller house out in Woodland Hills or somewhere. And so he had to start downsizing. But, hey.
Speaking of Eminem, who discovered Eminem?
This guy that was Jimmy Iovine's assistant. His name was, Jason, I think. Anyway, he was Jimmy's personal assistant. He got the tape, gave it to Jimmy. Dre was over there at Jimmy's house. I remember Jimmy telling me the story himself. He said he was on a treadmill, working out. Dre was sitting there, you know, asking him for money, telling him he needed an advance for this, he needed money for this. And he said, Dre, I can't, you're $21 million running recoup. Can't give you no more money right now. But he threw a cassette tape to him. He said, here, listen to this kid, I think it's great. And he said, see what you can do with this kid. And I remember the assistant, Jimmy used to always tell me, he said, yeah, Reggie, you know why I bought that guy that found Eminem? He said, a Honda Acura.
Oh,
and I used to laugh. I said, that boy found this $1 billion artist and only got a Honda Acura out of the deal. He eventually left and started working for Clyde Davis as Clyde Davis' assistant. Can't think of his name, but I remember he's the one that also saved Eminem from getting whooped on at the Source Awards, because he and I had a great relationship. Because whenever I needed to get to Jimmy, Dean, I think his name, I can't think of that dude's name for nothing, but I think it's Dean or Jason, something like that. But he was a good dude. He used to always make sure I got to Jimmy whenever I needed him. I think it's Dean. Yeah.
Did DMX and Tupac ever meet?
No. Well, not to my knowledge, not while, they did meet while Tupac was on death row doing those 11 months. But Irv Gotti and the Rough Rider dudes met with Suge prior to Tupac signing with Death Row and was talking about doing a deal with Death Row that never materialized. But Yeah, Suge did meet with the Rough Riders and Irv Gotti, who was hanging with them prior to Pac signing with Death Row. But that deal didn't never materialize because Mary J. Blige was a big fan of them, and she had Suge ear at that time.
So they were trying to get everything together.
Yeah, but I think they got a better offer. But it's a picture out there floating on the internet with the Rough Riders, Big Y and Big J, and Irv Gotti and Suge, and all of them meeting and talking, but the deal didn't materialize.
Okay. Because I seen Swizz Beatz said the Death Row tried to get DMX or something like that.
Like I said, they were meeting. Yeah. They met, but I think they got a better offer down the line.
Okay. What happened between Suge and Akon?
Suge and Akon.
Didn't it start with Suge wanted some money for a producer?
Yeah. So this is what happened. I actually had a deal with this guy named Detail. I had started back hanging around Suge about in 2008, 2009. This is when I had like a 10 album deal or 10 song deal with Detail. And so what I did, I was back around Suge and I was just telling him how, yeah, I got this producer, Detail, who had just did One Wish with Reggie and all of that. So Suge was like, yeah. And so I started bringing Detail around and we started having Detail because he had his own little studio in Glendale. And we had Detail doing a little work for us, doing little things. So Suge, of course, he took a liking to Detail. Detail, of course, took a liking to Suge and all of that. And so now we heard that Detail went and signed a deal with Akon. And so I'm like, okay. Well, okay, nigga, you still gonna do those songs you owe for me whenever I need them. But that ain't good enough for sure. Oh no, that's your producer. That nigga gonna pay us. They gonna pay us, He was on that mode then because, he was in bankruptcy court and was kind of doing bad. And so that's when he was trying to, start pushing up on Akon. Akon pretty much was told him, like, okay, man, we'll work it out. Let's give a detail and we'll work it out. And so I guess Suge saw him and bumped into him at Super Bowl weekend in Arizona. And he was talking head and coming at him, but he by himself. Because now he ain't got his crew like he did. See, there's a different, everybody always talking about, well, Suge ain't that tough. He got knocked out. That was 2006, 2007, 2008 Suge. 93, 94, 95, Suge. 96, he wouldn't have did that too. But my point is, he wasn't walking up to that dude. That dude socked him right dead between his eyes and knocked his ass out. Akon bodyguard. So that's what that was about.
Okay, and then after that, what happens?
Okay, yeah. And then after that, of course, he catch Akon brother Boo at a recording studio in Hollywood because now he looking for him. And I heard he got him in there and pretty much had him stripped down like he liked to do. Got him and had that dude running down Sunset or Hollywood Boulevard, wherever they were, at the recording studio, chasing him. And that's when I get into why I believe Suge got shot into at One Oaks. Because after that is when they went and, I think, hired the T-Money dude to go and get Suge. Which Suge whole thing is, it was Dre. But I really believe it was Akon or Akon brother Boo that hired T-Money to do that to Suge. Which, I ain't gonna give T-Money too much credit, even though they tell me he's a writer. But it's obvious he was scared. Because to shoot that man at that close range and not kill him, and where he shot him at, it was obvious a bunch of nerves kicked in on him.
Yeah, I mean, you're in the middle of a club. There's probably all types of people watching. It is Suge Knight. You kind of don't know. There could be shooters around Suge Knight. He really doesn't know.
Yeah.
So it happened. He was really close to him when it happened.
Correct.
What happens right afterwards? Because I think I seen video of Suge just walking out the club.
Pretty much walked out the club and got in the gurney, went to the hospital.
And the guy that did it ended up getting caught for it, right?
Got caught, but Suge didn't tell. Suge, he was trying to tell. That's what most people don't know. That was his major defense for the whole Straight Outta Compton, saying it was all a setup, was because he really believed that Dr. Dre, and he really believes this, is the one that paid for that incident to happen to him at the One Oaks. That Dre was trying to hire someone to have him shot and killed.
Did Suge ever send any goons to 50 Cent's video?
It wasn't Suge's crew, but another crew did push up on Spider Loc was telling that story. That's who was telling that story. That's a question for Spider Loc. I heard him tell that story. What Spider Loc said, that's how him and 50 Cent became good friends or got a relationship, because some guys was pressing on 50 and he gave him the phone as if you got a phone call, somebody wanted to holler at you, and 50 Cent got a chance to walk away from him, but he was getting pressed by some dudes from LA. But I don't believe it was none of Suge's crew.
Okay. But now that you're starting to move around and starting to feel a little bit better, what all are you working on?
Well, of course, I'm always going to do live streams just to get my feel of what's going on, keep my post to the ground on Bomb First with my boy John. But I'm also doing something with the digital soap op network, which is owned by Doggy Diamond on the East Coast, and my boy Norman Steele, which also put out Gangster Chronicles. Be doing some things with Alex Alonso and his podcast, and my own podcast. It's called Both Sides of the Fence by Reggie Wright Jr. So y'all keep a lookout for that. And that'll be coming out on the digital soap opera, I call it soap opera, but Soapbox Network. And so stay tuned to that and be looking out for that. Norman and James will also be appearing on that show periodically. But the original Gangster Chronicles is Reggie, either James, either Norman or Alex. But Gangster Chronicles, as y'all know today, will still be in the same tack with Norman, MC8, and James.
Okay. Man, that's what's up, man. I'm glad to see you back doing, getting going, man.
I'm getting better day by day. And by the first of the year, I should be back to normal.
That's what's up, man.
Appreciate your support, Cam. Keep up the good work. Been checking out a lot of your interviews. And since I've been going the last 2 years, I've seen your channel was really growing and popping. So congrats to you too, brother.
Thank you, man. I appreciate the time, man. Whatever you need, feel free to hit me up. If I can,
oh, yeah.
You
know me, I'm open book. Anybody call and ask me to hang with them and talk, I'm there for them.
There it is, bro.
All right. Appreciate you, Cam. Yes, sir.